I love that this guy said, wait, hold on. I know there's been a lot of news lately, but what's with the blackout of Ukraine coverage? What a perfect time for that chatter to just drop that in. You know what I mean? Just another perfect representation of just chatters who don't comprehend like the flow of news and how it works and how like I do talk about Ukraine all the time, just like the top of the hour ad break. I tell you hour after hour, there's a 60-second ad break at the top of the hour. And if you no longer want to see those ads, all you need to do is subscribe, which you can do for $5 or for free with a Twitch Prime. I tell you all this. Okay? And yet some of you still refuse to listen. If you no longer want to see those ads, you can also get gifted a sub. Dynamic Jab 13, thank you for the 5 gifted subs. All right? That's how it works. Here's the 1 minute ad break now.
This morning, Ukraine's president made a surprise visit to a key city just freed from Russian troops. Volodymyr Zelensky arrived in Kherson this morning and spoke to soldiers and civilians, calling the liberation the beginning of the end of the war. Chris Livesay spoke to Zelensky, where he found a city full of joy in the middle of war.
So this is the road to Kherson. We've been given a military escort, and we have to drive very, very carefully because the road is just littered with vehicle after vehicle that's been blown to pieces, not to mention craters left over from explosives and other debris from what has been nearly 9 months of an effort to reclaim this area and the city. But the children of Kherson...
Bro, so much unnecessary bloodshed. Just fucking disaster.
Son can't wait any longer to come outside, like Kirill and his friends. We're going to play hide and seek in those trenches once we're allowed to, he says. President Zelensky is wasting no time either.
No, don't do that.
Zelensky, is this the beginning of the end of the war?
We're ready for peace, but our peace for our country is all our country, all our territory. That's why we are fighting against Russian aggression.
For the people of Kherson, victory and freedom have never tasted so sweet. Once, they could be killed for singing the Ukrainian national anthem. Now, they can shout it.
Russians promise that they're here forever. They are lying. They are not here anymore. And they are not forever.
But the jubilation belies unspeakable trauma for survivors like Alexander. He takes us to his mother's house where he says 40 Russian soldiers lived for months. You can see his mother's clothing all over the floor as we
Why do you cover nothing from Iran? Dude, what the fuck? I literally... Bro, how long have you been on the broadcast, dude? I'm a news commentator. I cover everything. We've been live for 5 hours. I talked about Iran already. What the fuck? Yo, some of you literally think like this is straight up like a one-stop shop catering to one individual. There aren't like 45,000 motherfuckers watching right now. Holy shit, dude. Be normal.
Poke through the mess. He tells me he couldn't stand it anymore, so he asked them to leave. They answered by pointing their rifles at him and giving him a shovel. They made you dig your own grave. Only at the last minute, after 2 nights of digging, he says, did they change their minds and let him live. There goes one of the collaborators, he says, pointing to a neighbor he claims helped the Russians occupy Kherson. How can you go on living with them? I don't know, he says, and I don't know how they can live with themselves.
Oh, they're going to fucking murder that guy, 100%.
And now the rebuilding can begin. President Zelensky also told me how grateful he was to President Joe Biden and Congress for the American weapons that have been critical in retaking this city. For CBS Mornings, Chris Livesay, Kherson, Ukraine.
Yeah, this was a big fucking, pretty solid, pretty giant, pretty whopping big L for Russia, which already in yet another sequence of foolish, violent, and otherwise just like unneeded step, declared Kherson to be annexed territory, which they were forced to pull out of because they could not occupy it. Because how the fuck are you going to occupy? How are you going to occupy a country with, 44 million civilians that are getting an endless amount of guns from the West, endless amount of training from the West? But even without that, it would be literally impossible to continue, especially when the further north or the further west you go, the less support you have for Russia, the less like people who, think that they're Russian exist in these territories. Winter's coming. It's just a horrible, horrible situation for them. Okay? So, what? This is rich coming from a guy who told the Ukrainian people not to evacuate so they get trapped behind the Russians. Shame on you. What? Bro, do you think this is funny? Like, I know you're joking, but like, there's people who fucking say insane shit. Like, please get a better joke. Please, please, please. If Ukraine didn't get any assistance, would Russia take over the whole country? No. No, it couldn't. Or even if it did, it would not be able to maintain its occupation. A fact that I mentioned before Russia even invaded. Part of the reason that I said this is a foolish endeavor and that Russia will never fucking invade Ukraine, that's crazy, was because of how impossible it was for Russia to maintain a steady occupation over a country, again, whose nation-building project hinges on anti-Russian sentiment and like leaving Russia. Good luck. That's nuts. Not going to happen. It was never going to happen. Anyway, this guy, real funny. I recall you said this would be like the invasion of Georgia until I pointed out that Ukraine has 10x the population. Motherfucker, you haven't even read the Wikipedia page for Ukraine, and yet you keep failing to run the ad on time. That's such a bad ad break debate because I already ran the ad break. Also, you've seen my fucking take. It's on the record. The one that everyone points to that I never deleted quite literally has all of this information in it. Except most people choose to avoid that part of the conversation. If you go back to that famous tweet that everybody like dunked on and we're like, dude, you're so stupid for this tweet. You will literally see me mentioning how large the Ukrainian population is and how difficult it would be for Russia to maintain a steady occupation on a country like Ukraine, which is one of the sane reasons as to why a nation state that should be operating in a relatively rational capacity would never do that. Look. Here it is. This is the hill I will die on. Russia cannot launch an urban counterinsurgency war in a neighboring country with 44 million people with or without NATO support. This is why I've been saying he won't invade Ukraine, not because of anything else. He's a bad person, not a mad one. That's why nobody talks about this part. And they only talk about this part. Okay? Like nobody literally talks about this, which is the premise that was correct that I was making this analysis off of. Yeah, my mistake was thinking that he wouldn't be off the perk, which is not how you make foreign policy assessments. Like that's crazy. You could just say anyone's off the perk. You know? Anyway, I mean, not that it matters. Like, I also foolishly immediately apologized for it, which people don't really give a shit about. So there's that too. Like, recognize that I was in the wrong. Very quickly was like, nope, it's an invasion for sure. I'm not going to watch the Dr. Jordan Peterson interview, by the way. 5K likes. How are those losers always bringing this up? No one saw your tweet. Yeah, the lesson I learned from that, I didn't see any of the other media say they called it wrong. Yeah, because they were largely on the side of the State Department. So they're not going to hit that note too hard, because my punishment or my like widespread condemnation in the aftermath of that didn't come from my widespread condemnation in the aftermath of that take didn't come because like I was didn't come because I was wrong on that front, which I recognized immediately. It came because like I looked up Hasanabi Ukraine on YouTube and found my favorite political analyst. That's hilarious. I'm still, and I think it's because I'm anti-NATO, and also what I've said about Crimea, which is genuinely different. Like, the Crimean invasion did not happen in the same way that the current invasion is that is ongoing. You know what I mean? They fucking cut their losses and they cut their water and ran. Which is why I always say, like, there's a difference between eastern territories within Ukraine, which should not be annexed by Russia, unacceptable,